Welcome to the third session of today's conference, which is entitled, well, beside Ukraine and Washington and beyond, is promoting partnerships through innovation and startups. For those of you that did not have a chance to listen to our first two panels, which were, one was dealing with 120 days of the Biden administration, and also about the Black Sea, whose is it? In those panels, we had military experts and policy people that follow these bilateral issues and NATO relations. What was interesting is that I think in each of those panels, it was recognized that enemies of Ukraine use various tools against Ukraine. And from General Breedlove, who's not only a fantastic or a great military leader, also is a great teacher. So he came up with this acronym called DIME to sort of keep in mind understanding these tools. And it stands for diplomacy, information, military, and economics. And we in the foundation have been working on US-Ukraine relations for 30 years and must admit that most of the time we're focused on the diplomacy, military, certainly in the last few years, information. Yes, we've been interested in the economic, but perhaps not as much as we should. And so I will note that this 3-day conference, the two we had early in the morning, but the rest of the 2.5 days are focused on supporting Ukraine's economic development, because this we think is key to Ukraine's sovereignty, independence, and also to strengthening its relationship with, whether it's with the United States or other countries. So to start off, we will have from UkraineInvest, sort of their approach to promoting economic development. And I'm very happy to introduce Sergiy Tsivkach, who's the executive director. He has about 20 years, I guess, as a qualified UK and Ukrainian authority lawyer who has worked on various legal issues in the economic sphere. He also has held numerous leadership positions and is advisors to the government of Ukraine, members of parliament, and also has, I think, been involved with financial institutions like the World Bank and OECD. He's also co-authored legislation to improve the investment environment. And he's the auditor and co-auditor of over 20 expert recommendations to state authorities. One of the things that I would point out that I see Sergiy as a dynamic leader in this effort, and that he has also taken it upon himself to go out and really go out through and visit the various regions of Ukraine, which I think are an important part of developing Ukraine's economy and also attracting investment. And we will have several panels that will discuss that specifically. So now it is my pleasure to turn over the podium to Sergiy Tsivkach, and he will introduce the panels and lead the discussion. Sergiy, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nadia. Thank you for this excellent opportunity to talk to US audience and to present investment opportunities and recent developments in Ukraine. We have an outstanding panel today. We have 3 senior speakers from Ukraine. We have Oleksandr Romanishyn, Deputy Minister of Economic Development, Trade and Agriculture of Ukraine. We have Dmytro Sennychenko, Chairman of the State Property Fund of Ukraine. And also we have Mr. Roman Opimakh, Director General of the State Geology and Subsoil Survey of Ukraine. This session will be very interesting. These speakers, they are main policymakers and also involved in execution of investment policy in Ukraine. So thanks to our panelists today, Ukraine is developing its investment market and becoming more attractive for international investment community. So I would like to welcome all participants and attendees of today's international conference, Ukraine in Washington and Beyond, and respected speakers of our session that is called Investor Support and Investor Promotion in Ukraine. As other distinguished speakers have already noted, the world and Ukraine face certain challenges, though everything possible is being done not only to overcome the crisis, but also to overcome it with decent economic indicators and ensure further sustainable growth of Ukraine's economy. It depends on the number of factors, internal and external, political, economic, but today we will focus on one of them, which is investment market and ways to develop it in a short and long term, and also talk about our recent achievements by our institutions. So to begin with, I would like to briefly review key macroeconomic indicators of Ukraine and some main developments. Specifically, I will focus on recent presidential legislative initiative on investment incentives for significant investment projects. So let me share my presentation with you. One second. Okay, I'll go in this mode. So Ukraine and key macroeconomic figures. Ukraine, as you know, is the first largest by area European country. GDP in current price is $156 billion US. International reserves of Ukraine as of 1st of May 2021, $28 billion US. At the moment, imports from USA in 2020 was $2.8 billion US, and FDI stock from USA $710 million US. We definitely need to increase that figure, and Ukraine is working towards that. Going to presidential initiative on investment incentives. The law has been passed in December 2020, and President signed it in February 2021. So the law provides for up to 30% of state support for all investment projects that will invest at least 20 million euros within 5 years' time. Industries that are covered are quite broad, starting with processing, mining, extraction, logistics, transportation, warehousing, waste management, healthcare, education, science, R&D activities, sports, arts, culture, and tourism. The requirement for investment projects to fall within definition of the law is the following. So the investor must construct, modernize, or provide re-equipment, technical or technological, for investment objects, and purchase of necessary equipment and components to it. Investor must create at least 80 jobs in the course of this project implementation, and it should be done within 5 years with minimum of 20 million euros. Eligible industries, I have mentioned those to you. What kind of state support can be expected by investors when they enter Ukraine? So they can expect tax exemptions, import duties exemptions, constructions of related infrastructure, and providing state or municipality-owned land plots for use. So we are talking about so-called soft state support for investments, which is very useful, and it brings, capital expenditure of investors down. This law is very important change, combined with decentralization that took place in Ukraine, also with new processes related to privatization and to things like mining and extraction. Ukraine also passed land reform in 2020, so we expect gradual opening of land market. Ukraine passed law on inner water transportation that opens new opportunities for this sector as well, and we hope to see big developments there. Also in 2020, Ukraine has seen biggest concession in the history of its independence. Qatari company Q Terminals opened, signed concession agreement with Ukraine. And we know that now Ministry of Infrastructure is working on a number of concession projects in addition to that, and the total amount will be over $2 billion. So this is very important change in Ukraine, and we as UkraineInvest are always happy to support investors. We provide consultancy support, we provide aftercare support, we provide troubleshooting support, and also now we were designated as a state authority to become responsible institution in accordance with the law on investment incentives. So any investor that is interested to get support according to the law can approach UkraineInvest, and we will be happy to become your investment managers and explain the process how to apply. At the moment, government of Ukraine is working on secondary legislation, and we do hope that this secondary legislation will be adopted by government of Ukraine very soon. Our next speaker, Mr. Romanishyn, from Ministry of Economics of Ukraine, will also talk about this law and will give us some updates on development of secondary legislation. Going back to present investors, we are happy to say that we do have major American investors in Ukraine. Just to name a few, companies like McDonald's, PepsiCo, Cargill, Amway, Visa, Procter & Gamble, Sigma Blazer, Horizon Capital, and other companies like Bunge as well. They are present in Ukraine, and this is a very good example of doing joint investment business with our country. UkraineInvest, according to our responsibility to be institution that supports investors according to investment support law, already started support of 15 projects during last couple of months. And these 15 projects, they worth over $1 billion. Also, please take your time when you have opportunity to check our UkraineInvest guide. This is a document that has analytical information about Ukrainian regulatory policy and investment projects in Ukraine. You can see our contacts on our next slide. And now I would like to move to our first speaker in the panel, Mr. Romanishyn. Mr. Romanishyn, as I said, he's the Deputy Minister of Economic Development, Trade and Agriculture of Ukraine, and he will also supplement my introduction with his presentation about role of Ministry of Economy by working with international investors that are interested in state support according to investment incentives law. Mr. Oleksandr, I would like to give the floor to you. Please give your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for introduction, and hello everybody. And I'm glad to take part in this event. It's really great to share new updates on the law. And before providing the comments on the law and recent updates, I would like to demonstrate all of you that Ukrainian government supports Ukrainian companies on a different stage, not only for biggest corporates, but starting from the small stage and starting from pre-seed stage. And as you may see from the slides on your screen, Ukrainian government created Ukrainian Startup Fund, which are quite successful during the last year. Available loans at 579, which is quite great support during this COVID time as well. And as the name of the conference, well, webinar is investment and promotion, Ukrainian government also pay a lot of attention to promote Ukrainian goods and services on the international market. And for this purpose, Ukraine building, the first time we built Ukrainian pavilion in Dubai Expo 2020, which will take place in October of this year. And this is a really huge event for Ukraine. 190 countries participated, and Ukraine has a lot of expectation from this event to show our technology, our corporates on the international market. So, and we have really quite good developed instruments to support business. And as Sergiy mentioned regarding the law, which is so-called Invest Nyani, I will not reply the same facts which already mentioned, but I would like to make stress on the latest update, which will be adopted very soon, and what the update is expected. First of all, and it may happen tomorrow, we adopt a requirement for feasibility studies of investment projects with significant investment. It will determine the requirement for the design and content of the feasibility study of investment project with significant investment, and in particular, it will contain such blocks like information on the result of the analysis of social and economic indicator of the project, assessment of social effects of the project, assessment of technical feasibility of the project, and description of technical solution, description of the market environment, financial analysis, description of form and total amount of state support, the result of the analysis of environmental aspects of the project, also identify project risks, their assessment, as well as determining the form of management of such risk, terms and stages of project implementation. This is one of requirements which we going to adopt tomorrow. The next one, requirement for financial capacity of applicants. This requirement establishes mandatory criteria for the applicant's financial capacity, which include capital adequacy, sufficiency of net operation cash flow, availability of source of financing to cover significant investment. Also, we are going to adopt procedures and methodology for evaluating investment projects, and it will describe in more detail in procedure of evaluation investment project after sending feasibility study and project investment agreement and other documents to the Ministry of Economy. Next one is methodology for calculating the amount of state support for implementation of the project. And the last one, a requirement to the register of investment project with significant investment. It will be publicly available register, and requirement is going to design and adopt it quite soon. So it's needed to mention that UkraineInvest is established by the Cabinet of Ministry of Ukraine, like the state agency, and is dedicated for attracting investment and for supporting existing investors in Ukraine, and by decision to stand and trust institutions supporting the investor in implementation of the project. I also would like to emphasize that the organizational and consulting support of the investor in the course of preparation of documents to be filed with the Ministry of Economy is provided by this institution, and it will be free of charge. In conclusion, I would like to know that we will continue our course for development of the investment climate in Ukraine, and we will encourage everyone to join up this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oleksandr. So just to summarize, so Ministry of Economy has been working on secondary legislation, as I mentioned, and hopefully we're going to have it not by the end of the summer, because according to the law, government was supposed to adopt secondary legislation within 6 months, and the 6 months period was supposed to end mid-August. But hopefully we're going to have it much sooner, and investors will be able to come to us, and we will be providing that consultancy service and helping all investors to understand not only how to pass this procedure, but also where to invest. Because we, as Nadia rightly mentioned, developing our strong connections with Ukrainian regions, So we will be happy to support you throughout Ukraine, guide you through, and show you best investment opportunities throughout Ukraine. So now I would like to turn my attention to Mr. Sennychenko and privatization in Ukraine. This process is very important for development of Ukraine. And as you know, previous privatization efforts, specifically in the 90s and, like first privatization waves, they have led to, a concentration of market power in specific hands. So this process is pivotal for development of Ukraine, but only when this process is transparent and predictable. And during the last several years, Mr. Sennychenko is doing a great job, because we can see new approaches being used. We can see rebuilding of investors' trust in privatization in Ukraine. Only in 2020, state privatization fund of Ukraine managed to sell assets for 3 billion hryvnias in Ukraine. And this is very important amount, because in 2020, big privatization was prohibited. Only this year, state SPFU team and members of parliament and other stakeholders managed to lift that moratorium to sell big assets. And we hope to see big investment targets being sold. And this year, and please, Mr. Sennychenko, correct me if I'm wrong, your target is about 12 billion UA hryvnias. And also you have this great initiative called comprehensive reform of privatization process. In case that reform will be implemented, and I'm sure that with our combined and joint effort this will be done, hundreds of billions of hryvnias can be attracted by state property funds. And also, last comment from me, that every dollar spent on privatization attracts additional $4 to $6 in additional investments. So, Mr. Sennychenko, the floor is yours. Thank you for your great job. And please tell us what we can expect this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergey, for the introduction. I hope you can hear me well. Dear ladies and gentlemen, pleasure to be today with you. My impact is overpriced by Sergey. It's not many years I'm on the position, but a little bit more than 1 year. But we have done something during the year 2020. Indeed, we changed some principles of privatization, and we need to go forward. The big privatization was unblocked recently by the law, and the president signed this legislation. We are working closely with UkraineInvest to promote the assets, which is very important. You can see on the on the slides that from the left to the right side. Before, it was just newspaper in the Ukrainian language, news of privatization issued on 500 copies. And this is how one can find information about what and when could be privatized. Now you have a full online supermarket, I would say, privatization.gov.ua, where we are preparing audits, we are preparing teasers. We have developed a virtual data room when everybody have full access to the information, to those assets which are in the process of privatization, because majority of those assets are still distressed assets with some poison pills, and nevertheless they are very much attractive, but everybody should know positive and all risks when making investment decisions. To start with general notes, I would say yes, that privatization is one of the important investment tools and opportunities. But for me personally, as a head of State Property Fund, it's a challenge that we are doing mostly reform of anti-corruption, which is one of the major problems in Ukraine. As all we know, the corruption which is still in majority present, and this corruption is present in the state part of the economy. recently adopted by the Prime Minister and by the government, the Economic Policy 2030 says clearly that the strategy is to minimize direct participation of the state through the state-owned enterprises also in the economy, being more judge, professional regulator than playing itself the large role as a state in the economy. That's why privatization is also could be measured not only by the revenues that we should bring to the budget, but as Sergiy correctly said, additional investments that are following the initial purchasing of the assets. On the screen, you can see that during 1 year, which is difficult year, 2020, when the world and Ukraine suffered from the coronavirus expansion and the crisis, changing the principles when everybody knows everything, we managed to increase the average number of participants. Then you can see the price growth. So this is the good start, and we have to follow up. Next slide, please. The big privatization is what we have now in the stage of preparation. Takes from 9 to 12 months to prepare the assets properly, that should have equal access of local and international investors, heavy industry, energy and distribution facilities, chemical, mining companies. This year we hope to place on the market from 3 to 6 big assets, big privatization. Indeed, we asked the government and parliament to increase the budget plan, but as I already said, it's not the main goal to earn as much as more money. The main asset, the main goal is to decrease, to minimize participants and presence of the states in the economy, and at the same time fight with the corruption. Next slide. So when coronavirus started in March of the year 2020, unfortunately, Parliament blocked the preparation and auctions of big privatization. Altogether, now we managed to unblock this, and one of the first big privatization auctions could be announced end of summer, I hope. This is United Mining and Chemical Company. Another is a site for development and hotel and electricity distribution companies, which are the large assets. So now we are starting to invite the new advisors for the privatization. We adopted also the new Cabinet of Ministers decision, when only reputable advisors will be allowed to take part in the preparation of the privatization, because it's important. We have to rebuild the trust. And next slide. One of the blue chips, I would say, of the big privatization this year will be United Mining and Chemical Company, which has 90% of company production exported. This is production of the deposits we increased, and together with Opimakh, Sergiy Tsivkach, support by the Prime Minister, first time in the history of Ukraine, we managed to cancel this so-called secret mood, when you are trying to invite investors, but you are not allowed to say what's on sale, what are the reserves. So it's indeed first time in Ukraine when this special regime of internal use only was cancelled, and now in the teasers and the investment memorandum, all potential investors can see all the reserves of the titanium ore, which is strategic company, I believe, for the international investors. And Ukraine will be now very much helping to bring real strategic investors. We have also in our Office of State Property Fund Investor Relations Manager that is ready to answer all questions in English, how to participate, how to get in contact with the professional advisors, which are BDO Corporate Finance in consortium with Baker Tilly and Baker McKenzie. So this is indeed blue chips, and starting price would be around 112 million euro. And now the Cabinet of Ministers should approve the post-privatization conditions and starting price, with the auction happening somewhere in the end of the summer. Next slide. Unfortunately, during the period of previous slide, in the period of attempts of state managers to manage some industrial companies, this is not anymore a company. This is more as a development site. 35 hectares, I believe, 30 hectares, around 30 hectares in the downtown of Kiev. This was the factory in the great history, but in fact, it's now a brown field for investments, development. Being a professional real estate consultant in my previous life, as the head of Jones Lang LaSalle office in Ukraine, I may say this is the best site in Kiev. Of course, one can have to try to arrange a coalition with local developers, I believe. KPMG is the consortium with Cushman and Wakefield are the advisors. This will be the starting price at, between 1 and 2 billion hryvnias. But indeed, this is the best development sites with all its potential poison pills, with all extra expected returns. This will be the auction conducted in September, October this year. Next slide. We are also working hardly with one of the most difficult assets, Odessa Port Plan. 2 of the 3 stages are completed. Next slide. And on the top of this, we are now starting selection of the advisors for the last 6 state-owned, or let's say with the majority of state-owned electricity, power distribution supply regional companies, which will be pretty attractive assets, because Ukraine in the year 2020 adopted really motivating RAB tariffs, and we hope to get high quality advisors for these 6 deals. So these are our next plans for the privatization this year and beginning of the year 2020. So to conclude, we are open. We are trying to prepare the assets and the best possible quality of disclosure information, equal access. Of course, we are still emerging markets, and you know as well as I am all other risks of the judicial system, which is not stable in Ukraine, but still we are moving and opening Ukraine for the investments, and together with Sergiy Tsivkach and Office of President, State Property Fund, government, we are all here to help to ensure smooth investments and also support in the post-privatization processes. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dmytro. Thank you very much. In terms of your presence in office, I meant 2021 and 2020. This point, but you are doing such a great job, so it feels like you're at least 10 years already there. You know, so thank you for all your good things that you are doing for Ukraine. Now I would like to present again to Opimakh, Director General of the State Geology and Subsoil Survey of Ukraine. Roman, we have recently presented with you your investment menu and we have seen over more than 24 investment targets, like plots and deposits from with different strategic materials, starting with lithium, cobalt, gold, gas, and the investment potential is enormous. If I remember correctly, when these auctions will be conducted, so Ukraine can expect up to $10 billion in investments. Could you please give us more information? What is happening now in your field? What kind of plans you have, and what investors should be focusing on when thinking about Ukraine in terms of mining and extraction? Thank you. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Hello, DC again. So nice to hear from you in Ukraine from you. So thank you, Sergey, for your great introduction. So I will start to talk about Ukraine and the investment opportunities in exploration and production of Ukraine, particularly about the strategic and so-known strategic and critical raw materials. What actually the agency, the survey is doing. So survey is kind of national upstream regulator. So we are issuing the exploration and production licenses for all kinds of mineral resources, as well as carrying out the various geologic assessment. I would like to load up my presentation. Just a second. Here we go. Okay. So this is our product. This is like that. Okay. This is our product, what we actually create together with the state geological enterprises, together with the government, how it look like. So it's absolutely new approach to promote and to try and to attract actually the foreign investors in Ukraine. Why? Because at least this is in English. At least this is a bunch of the geological information that which you are actually is open, and you can find it in more details about the proposals. And at least we are taking the phone when you are calling us. So here we go. So critical and strategic raw materials. What is that actually? We understand that today, the world is pretty dependent on different materials, different raw materials as lithium, titanium, and other important minerals. Ukraine is a resource-rich country. We have a different deposit of such materials, and we collect all of them to one place, and currently currently presented. For example, again, so we created the project. We created the product which we are call it the investment atlas, where you can find currently more than 400 different proposals, different open acreage to be nominated for auction. Among them, we selected over 10 different minerals, as I mentioned: titanium, lithium, nickel, cobalt, chrome, tantalum, niobium, as well as gold and hydrocarbons, and put it in this presentation and gathered all the information about those assets. So the first element, this is lithium. So I believe actually, I do not to spend the time to explain where is used right now, and why it's important, and why it's demanded actually and trended actually all around the world. So Ukraine possesses one of the largest lithium deposits in Europe, with proven reserves and measured resources. There is actually 3 lithium fields and 1 explored prospective areas. And nowadays, lithium is not extracted, unfortunately, in Ukraine as in Europe. Europe, by the way, 1 lithium field was licensed in just recently, a couple of years ago. you can see the three deposits, the three assets, and everyone is free to get more information just following and clicked on these places, where you can find, just right now you see the short overview about block, the type of the license, the region of location, the size of, or the acreage of license actually, and short information about the deposits and characteristics of the deposits. When you click on it, you can find more information in English. And then I will, in the end of the presentation, I will show you more geological data. This is a map of Ukraine, and you can see the spot of lithium ore on it, where it's located. Actually, two of them is Kirovograd, are in Kirovograd region, and another two is Donetsk and Zaporizhia regions. Titanium is the next trended element, which Ukraine is among the top 10 countries in the world in terms of the proven reserves of titanium ore. 27 deposits, fields, and more than 30 prospective areas been explored. So far, we prepared the open for auction 7 proposals. One of them was just recently sold out. Again, more information, you can just dive in and find more description data about those proposals. Here we go. This is a map, so you can see more than 20 spots, 20 assets in which are explored right now, which are developed right now by private and state-owned companies. 90%, more than over 90% of the titanium products is exported currently. So the plants is there, the fabrics of processing are there, and we can see also the information about the United chemical companies, which are Mr. Sennychenko mentioned in his speech, that is going to be privatized very soon. So you can follow and get more again presentation and guide about these proposals, about these assets following this link. So the next group of minerals, this is non-ferrous metals, as nickel, cobalt, copper, molybdenum, and chrome. Ukraine possesses considerable deposits of those metals, but unfortunately, it's not produced them. So here we go, 5 blocks. One of them was sold at the beginning of this year. The map is there, so predominantly the deposits are located in the west part of Ukraine. So the next block, this is a graphite, which are also used for construction of batteries, by the way, and non-rare rare earth metals, as beryllium, zirconium, tantalum, and other. The blocks, the proposals presented, 3 proposals are open. One of them was purchased by Turkish company just recently in Cherkas region. So we wish them good luck to start the production as soon as possible. The map. The next block, this is a gold actually. So 7 fields have been discovered in Ukraine, 5 concession licenses have been issued, and small production currently, unfortunately, only small production currently carried out. So one license was sold at the end of the last year to Turkish company. By the way, they already brought a couple of rigs in Ukraine to drill the wells. So great information. So again, we wish them good luck. Here we go. More information again. I am not stopped on that, but more information is open following the links. Finally, hydrocarbons. So this is not a typical critical mineral resources as is known in the world, but for Ukraine, we believe this is strategic assets. Ukraine possesses a great deposits of the natural gas and crude oil. That's why we unfortunately Ukraine depends on import of those products. That's why actually we prepared a couple of huge acreage actually for explore and production of oil and gas. So last year we sold 2 concession licenses, and the government also signed 8 production sharing agreements. One of the part of these agreements is Denver-based company, Aspect Energy, by the way. So also the government relaunched the PSA, which was signed in the beginning of 2010 with Chevron, with Shell. And right now, the national company Naftogaz is operated by these blocks, and actually they're open for partnership with American companies as well. Actually, so also we can see the huge acreage offshore, over 30,000 square kilometers. So all of that license was Naftogaz of Ukraine national company got the license for these acreages and is going to make the seismic very soon. For this year, actually, we are planning to sign at least 3 new PSA, the process which we started 1 year ago, and provide a couple of concession auction. More information about oil and gas and in Ukraine exploration and production area. I mean, you can find following these links, pretty detailed and pretty well developed information. So about the blocks, one of the licenses was sold in April for 4.3 million. The another licenses are open to be nominated for auction or are open to be purchased on the auction. The separate attention, I would like to draw your attention to Oleksandr license. This is a PSA actually, which was signed in 2012 with Chevron, but later Chevron dropped it. Right now, this you can see it huge acreage, 6.3 thousand square kilometers in the west of Ukraine, and this is a license for 50 years. Combined license for exploration and production with all of the international guarantee and other benefits, which is PSA actually. So it is open right now for partnership. What actually I mentioned that we also launched the geological reports virtual data room. What is mean? Well, you can go there and find so far at least the description, geological legacy reports, about 20 blocks, about 20 proposals, which are in this presentation, in these slides. So this is more than 250 books. All of them are in Russian or Ukrainian, so there is a legacy report. So, but this is a huge progress that you can find this information right now. You can download it for free and you can use it. So using, of course, the geologist with the proper knowledge. Finally, eventually, the context of State Geological Survey, the UkraineInvest and different Ukrainian state geological enterprises are there also. So do not hesitate to contact if you need any assistance, if you need any help, or you have just additional questions. Also, Ukrainian Geological Survey joined a couple of well-known organizations as European Raw Material Alliance and European Battery Alliance, what we actually did at the beginning of this year. And at the end, so shortly about the auction procedure, we like to compare it with eBay process because it's very easy to jump it, very easy to participate in auction. So you can even do that without registering the company in Ukraine. So using the non-resident entity. What you need, the best bid is selected by the highest price. So no another requirements. What you need is just register it, use the platform, and one of the 40 actually. So this is independent process. It's very transparent, and go and participate in the auction and buy the parcels. So it's pretty short and again a very transparent process compared with what we had in the past. Also, you can find the additional information about the licenses, you issued licenses, about the license holders, which are mentioned on the maps of Ukraine in the different groups. So you can click on it and find more information about each of the company, for example, as it is, right? Okay. Sorry. Yes, it is. Okay. And here we go. More information you can find following downloaded on these links. So about the annual reports, what we did actually, and what our proposals and what our achievements, what our plans for 2021. You can find the investment guide from UkraineInvest, also a bunch of the interesting and important helpful information about Ukraine. And also, I recommend strongly to use the Ministry of Finance data about the macroeconomic situation of Ukraine. So pretty knowledgeable information in English. Thank you so much, and welcome to Ukraine.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you for great presentation. So we are done with presentations for today. We have received a lot of useful information about different sectors of possible investment activities in Ukraine. Also, we have some good achievement because it's almost 9 p.m. in Ukraine and we present from our homes. And so far, we have not seen any interactions by cats or dogs, you know, like home pets. So this is, thank you, colleagues, for keeping your beloved pets under control. And now I'm going to the most interesting part. I'm going to Q&A. So we have several questions from our audience, but not too many. So I would like to ask our audience to type in your questions. And while you're doing that, while we will check your questions, I would like to ask Dmytro Sennychenko about the reform that I have briefly mentioned when I introduced you about comprehensive reform on privatization. Could you tell us more? Why do we need that in Ukraine? And what kind of outcomes, positive outcomes, this will bring for Ukraine and to investors? Thank you.
Yes, Ukraine is the country, probably the last that didn't complete the overall privatization cycle. We still have about 3,600 state-owned enterprise on the paper. Being honest, 1/3 of them should be just liquidated. because due to the improper management, absence of corporate governance and corruption, they are dying. These companies are not surviving. So to foster the privatization, we have prepared the law that eliminates a lot of barriers and makes easier for the investors to invest in those assets. And this is a comprehensive reform starting from the process of transfer of those assets and companies to the privatization, to the strengthening of resources of preparation of those assets, and then giving more comfort to the investors. So to be short, to say a few words, for example, for today, it's 96 state-owned companies and state-owned bodies are managing 3,000 state-owned companies. So Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Finance, state committees, agriculture, whatever, 96 state-owned bodies managing 3,000 companies, which is absolutely a mess without the proper disclosure information, without the proper governance. So those companies which have which should be profitable companies, they should be privatized. They are not the part of the policy making. So the ministry and the state bodies should become strong regulators and policy makers, but not managing companies of the state-owned companies. Also, this law gives a lot of instruments like English law on England and Wales to be applicable on the privatization assets, to give more guarantees for international investors before Ukraine will reform its judicial system. Also, there are some write-off of tax debts and some other debts that not realistic to pay back, but they are keeping those assets from the investments. So this law makes changes into 27 laws on Ukraine and 3 codes: tax code, budget code, and administrative code. It should open the highway in the forest when we are now jumping between the trees. So we need radical reforms, not the best way after some party was called Radical Party, but we need fast reforms. We need reforms that will complete this privatization in 2-3 years, and then we have to minimize the state-owned sector in the economy. So we have sent this draft law to all business associations, and we received now 30 letters of support to the parliamentarians. We will now work with the advocating campaign, and whenever this will be possible, we would ask everybody to support, because it's not something like Dmytro, Sennychenko or IMF needs. This is something that investors, internals need. They need clear rules, they need open road, and they will invest in the Ukrainian cities, in the Ukrainian country, in the Ukrainian assets. Ukraine should finally realize its potential that we always speak about, natural resources that we are rich, but those are under the very secret mood that nobody knows where they are. All our transport infrastructure, our state monopolies should be demonopolized, like we are doing this with the national spirits operator selling that on the open market. So we are running in the circle of corruption for 30 years, and one of the key corruption elements is the state-owned enterprises. Eliminating the source, there will be less desire for many politicians to get in power only because they can appoint the minister or the CEO of state-owned company, and then on the next political cycle, financing billboards and television appointing a new CEO of state-owned companies. We have eliminate this source, and then the political cycles will be much more clear. The parties will be built based on the support of real population. It will take time, but when we have now political will of president, of prime minister, we have to go through this privatization process as soon as possible, because the opportunity window is not never ending. Thank you.
Thank you, Dmytro. Thank you very much. And we do hope that this reform will be implemented soon. We have some questions in our chat, but before we get some more, I would like to ask Roman. Roman, what about that key thing? We have briefly touched that point, but maybe you can go into more details. What about access to geological information about deposits and plots in Ukraine? This is very much needed for investors, as everyone knows, and often this was kind of under secret file kept, this information. So could you tell us more information? What's happening now in Ukraine? What kind of latest developments there are to open this up? And when we can see full information disclosed, at a proper level? Thank you.
Thank you. So it's a pretty important question. And I'll explain why. In general, Ukraine has a bunch of the geological data, legacy geological data from Soviet time. And mostly all of these reports are open. So, and you can find it, and as a geologist, you can go to the library, you can, make the application and get the book and read it in some special room. So as it worked in the past and as it working right now in the majority cases. So we had tried to change the situation. We opened the first data room for PSA tenders. We launched 1.5 years ago. We made the presentation in London at that time. So, and we gathered the geological data for over 3,500 square kilometers about the oil and gas wells, about the seismic, about the passport of these wells, and all the additional reports. We put it in one place, and everyone can go there, take the laptop and use it, and even download it from their own PC. The same issues we are trying to repeat with the critical and strategic raw materials. So as I mentioned, at over 250 books, geological books are open and available to download it right now. Of course, this is obvious that we can't interpret it or translate it in English, because we just can make the short overview and translate it. And then again, if anyone will be in interest to invest in exploration, invest in further production. So anyway, this investor is mandated to get the Ukrainian geologist, is mandated to work in Ukraine and operate and get the respective knowledge and skills. One of the important barriers with Dmytro Sennychenko is mentioned is the access to geological information for short list of raw materials as lithium, as titanium, as a couple of others, as gold, by the way. So, and we believe this is just, it's look like from the Soviet Union time history, it's outdated approach. We lose international best practices, as almost everywhere this information is open. Even it was actually ridiculous when we can find the information about Ukrainian reserves of titanium in US Geological Survey annual commodities reports, and you can find it in Ukraine in open access. So, and we are trying to explain it, and Mr. President, the Prime Minister, and the government actually support us with that in that initiative. So the proper decision was took just recently, and right now we are moving to change the secondary legislation to make this totally open. So I believe we will finalize this process in the short future. And we just took the first step with the Ukrainian mining company, which are actually an open information, geological information about the reserves of those assets. And you can find it actually following the links right now. But the information about the geological reserves of couple of another mineral resources, critical raw materials, are still closed.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you for your comprehensive answer. Oleksandr Romanishyn, are you still online? Can you take a question? Okay, we'll wait if Oleksandr will react. I can see a couple of questions in our chat. So the first one is, Ukrainian law system is not combined well with European laws. How would you guarantee security of investments and clarify any potential contract and business disputes? I will probably take that question. So Ukrainian, the protection of investors is a combined feature. So we're talking about legislation updates, and we're also talking about enforcement practices. In terms of legislation in Ukraine, we do have very good developments. And when we talk about security of investments, probably this is more connected to effectiveness of the courts. And effectiveness of the courts is also connected to anti-corruption policy and enforcement in this field. So, as you know, in Ukraine, we have seen rapid development of anti-corruption system. And many can argue that our system of declarations is one of the most strict ones throughout the world. So Ukraine is doing quite a good job in this field, but it takes time, it's evolution, and we need to see results in due course. Also, we have seen very good developments in terms of tackling any improper wrongdoings in this area. We have seen a new law being passed on Bureau of Economic Security. So now all those responsibilities of special services of police and security service, when they had an opportunity to interfere into economic affairs of any company, now this feature will be taken away from them, and we expecting creation of new Bureau on Economic Security. This change was long expected by investors and by businesses in Ukraine as well. Also, we are now looking at the latest kind of stage of reform of Ukrainian courts. We hope that this will lead to increased effectiveness of courts and decisions that they take. Also, there is a draft law on competition policy and law registered in Ukraine. When this will be passed, we will see development of a system of protection of economic competition in Ukraine, because we do need to tackle monopolies. We need to tackle monopolistic abuse. We need to tackle cartels in Ukraine. Then investors will feel safer. They will feel that real level playing field, and their investments will be protected. So Ukraine is doing its part. Bear with us. Our situation in terms of investment protection is better than before, but we do have our homework to do. And one more question about, again, probably I'll take that quickly. What are some of the incentives in the tourism industry for potential investors? This is a very easy answer to that. New presidential law on investment incentives that I have mentioned, and Oleksandr Romanishyn also mentioned, foresees state support for investment projects in tourism sector. One threshold to fall under definition of that law, that you need to invest at least 20 million euros within 5 years' time. Thank you for your questions. And I have one question from Nadia McConnell. The question is about support that is needed by Ukraine. And your answers will be very interesting. So the question is as follows. What specific types of assistance would you like from the US or the West in general? I understand this is assistance that is needed to develop activities of your agencies. So I would like to ask both Dmytro and Roman and Oleksandr, if he is here, to answer this question. Dmytro, the floor is yours. What type of assistance would support activities of State Property Fund, if any, is needed?
Yeah, I mean, general support of the privatization reform, which is by signals that international community and US community would like to invest, and Ukraine is still an emerging market with all its risks, but we are ready. Please open your privatization, at least assets, deliver them to the market. So this is this will help us to fight with populists that are saying that no, it's not the time for privatization. We have to block again big privatization. Everybody will come and buy everything for cheap. We are trying to answer as a state property fund. The international, the markets are on the highest position. There are a lot of money in the world. Let's bring them to Ukraine. Let's be open. And we are always in discussion with populists or with corruption people that are saying it's not the time. We're saying it's 30 years, not the time. When there will be the time? We have one revolution, we have second revolution, we have time to time economic crises. It's never the time. Now it's time. So general support. Also through the business association that we are working, and thank you for this support and the new law, etc. Secondly, yes, we are grateful to American taxpayers who are, through the support of the USAID, are organizing very practical support of the privatization process. In, for example, this virtual data rooms that we implemented, it's all been financed by the international donors community. So that's the practical help we are getting, and thank you very much for all of this. So general support, good signals, and participation in the auctions.
Thank you. Roman, what is your view on types of assistance that may be required?
Very in short, actually. So one of the issues which we are really needed is a good promotion. So we need to talk and communicate what we actually have. And this is pretty important, because without such a communication, without such a bridge, there is difficult to reach the proper audience. And the second is just the practical issues. As I mean, for example, back to the how to provide the access to more geological data. We need to scan it and we need to put it on a hardware. We need to, more space on the hardware. Unfortunately, we have a lack to finance such things, or it takes a bunch of the time. So just buy and provide to Ukrainian Geological Survey hardware and software of a couple of, the program to use it. And we will put more geological data and make it make it available online, which is make it public, which is pretty important. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you for your answer. And please, our audience, please, distinguished participants, ask any questions that you have, because otherwise we'll be finishing soon. And I have a question to both speakers. According to the latest statistics, in 2020, Ukraine have seen negative FDI flow into Ukraine. unfortunately. But in 2021, we expect between $3 to $5 billion to receive in FDIs. This figure was given to public by the Ministry of Economy, and we do hope that this will be reached. And if we will come closer to 5 billion, this will be excellent. For me personally, as head of UkraineInvest, I do have some kind of a minimum threshold of what needs to be done by the end of the year. And I'm thinking about at least 10 to 20 projects that will be signed by the end of the year according to investment incentives law. And also a current pipeline of investment projects will be supported by UkraineInvest, and we will be able to supplement that FDI figure strongly, and also will be able to support development of local investment market, because you cannot talk about FDIs without proper functioning local investment market. But when we talk about state property fund and state geology and subsoil survey, what are the most ambitious targets for 2021? Could you tell us some? Dmytro, floor is yours.
We have very specific targets in number of companies and assets we would like to bring to the market. We have very specific targets with regard to the legislation we want to be passed, to do more and with better conditions the year 2022 and next month. So we have also very ambitious target also to bring more support of an understanding in the Ukrainian audience about the importance of this reform, because the word privatization itself, it became negative word for many Ukrainians, because they never got anything positive from this, because it was voucher privatization 1990, that was oligarch privatization style in the year 2020, and so when a lot of lucrative state assets were given for the promises to invest in these assets. So we need support from the business communities to create constant pressure on policymakers, because we need continuation of this reform. It's not enough to start. Without the pressure on the politicians, we may have that situation that this opportunity window will be closing, and we are fighting with a lot of pressure on us, on state property fund, from various groups, etc., etc. So we need more, and we have a very specific plan on legislation, on the assets, and communication, as Roman mentioned, is also very important. Communication on the product itself, investment product, and communication on the importance of this reform, on what Ukrainians will give. And Sergiy Tsivkach already mentioned that not only the money that are invested in the asset, that additional investments, creating of working places, additional base for taxation, this is the real, and fight with the overall corruption, these are the real privatization reforms. So a lot of tasks. One of these tasks is to keep up policy and among the decision makers, that this reform is not stopped.
Thank you, Dmytro. Roman, what is your goal? I know you can answer simply and say we need $10 billion in investments, but maybe you will have some additional comments.
I believe not in 2021, so, but I wish to have $10 billion investment in this year. But more realistic among our public priorities, one of the goals which I really want to achieve this year is to digitalize the industry, digitalize the bureaucratic procedure. So currently we are working on to launch the program. We call it the Subsoil User Cabinet, electronic cabinet, when everyone who has the license and everyone who are planning to apply to get a license can do it through the online, actually, through your own PC. So everything will be transparent. They will be easy to, following the tracking of the application. Where is it right now? And actually, I expect that the necessary bill will be adopted very soon to cut the red tape and to make the procedure very simple. Thank you. Even simple that it is right now, actually, truly say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There is a quick question to Dmytro. Are there any positive signs you might share on cooperation between state property fund and local communities that would evidence political will at local level for investment opportunities?
We are trying to be, first of all, more service-oriented organization towards investors, but also we are trying to build better networks with the business association as with the local communities, because indeed we have a lot of small privatization, which is thousands of assets, buildings, which are located around Ukraine, and most of the potential investors are the local investors. Here we need more direct marketing in the local communities. In our new law, we have created a motivation that at least 10% or maybe more of the revenues after the transparent auctions should go to the local community's budget for the social economic development. Because again, I am saying that we are doing privatization not to get revenues, not to get returns or one-time sale money. We are doing this privatization to heat up the economy, to sell everything extra state-owned assets, and to have better support. In our new law, we have put the clause that 10% or maybe more after privatization of the assets located in Ternopil district, for example, should stay in Ternopil district for the local communities. By this way, we are getting support on 1,400 local communities to support this law. So we are trying to talk with the governors of the regions, asking them about marketing support, because we need those. We have this online website, privatization.gov.ua, but we have to switch the trust of the local businesses. And it's easy. You can go on the website, you can make a few clicks, and you can buy something which is next to you. But we have to reach the local businesses and the local communities, because state property fund doesn't have resources to do good marketing of the product. So that's what we are doing with regard to the local communities.
Thank you very much, Dmytro. Thank you. So on this note, I will just give a brief summary. So Ukraine is open for investments. Ukraine needs your support, first of all, in the form of belief in Ukraine, because we are changing. We are a very different country now. We are open to cooperation. We are trying to compete with many countries worldwide, because, pandemic opened a lot of opportunities, but also put in crisis many economies worldwide. So we need to compete even stronger than before, but we are doing that. We are going to succeed, I'm sure. So please believe in Ukraine, and with any questions that you have, just simply get in touch with us with UkraineInvest, state property funds, state subsoil and geology survey, or Ministry of Economy. We'll be happy to answer and support you in Ukraine. So on this note, I would like to pass the floor back to Nadia McConnell for remarks or for any questions that you may have. Thank you, Nadia.
Okay, well, just a few comments. First of all, I want to congratulate you, Sergiy, and your panelists on the work that you are doing. We talk about innovations and startups to increase business opportunities or attract investment. I would have to say that you are startups, and that you are using innovations to transform the various agencies that you are responsible for. You know, allow me as an observer and student of Ukraine's development since January of 1990, that, yes, that, you know, you are really at the forefront, I think, of I would say, major battle in terms of bringing in your various experiences in education that you have gotten, fighting, and several of you have mentioned it, still fighting the legacy, the Soviet legacy, that is, you know, the remnants of which, you know, are still very much there. So we wish you luck. I also would like to just make a comment in general, concerns that we have, that I hope that you're going to be in your jobs for more than whatever, a year or so, because I think one of the big problems we see in Ukraine is that people get into a job and then a year or so later they're out. And we all know that in order to really succeed, you can't do it in a year or 18 months. So you need that longevity. So we wish you success and longevity in your jobs. Finally, Sergiy, I want to thank you and UkraineInvest. We could not put on these kinds of events without partners. And you have been a great partner in helping us build this program all together. And so thank you for that. And I look forward to future cooperation with all of you to promote Ukraine's economic opportunities. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was an honor and pleasure. Dmytro and Roman, could you please just 30 seconds each, last remarks?
Again, as Nadia mentioned, myself, it's my second attempt to help the country, because after Orange Revolution, when I started my career in central bank in the 90s, then the office of Prime Minister, I was pretty much sure that we are moving to the right directions, and we will be in NATO soon. The country will be better than Poland. It's time to do business. But it's not so easy and not so fast. Now we are all doing the next attempt. It's 30 years of independence on Ukraine. On one side, it's not such a long way, because many countries went through the reforms and for the hundreds of years. But on the other hand, we have very strong enemies next to us, and we should be successful. We have to do it fast. And Ukraine really deserves this. And there is a very few trust in the Ukrainian society, and I understand why it is. But changing our institutions, changing approach to the business, we're also changing the attitude to the state, because Ukraine should not be a failed state. But I'm afraid of this combination of words. We should build a strong state, a competent and compact, not a big one. That's why together with Ukraine in Washington, together with US-Ukraine association, we all know what we are doing. We are just have to be very energetic to keep doing what we are doing. We cannot do more, but we do maximum what we can do. And I believe we will succeed sooner or later. It's better sooner.
Thank you. Thank you, Dmytro. Roman, your seconds.
Actually, I am very positive. So we are doing the right job. We are doing the right things right now. We are on a right track. Of course, we need support, and we need to join our efforts to reach these right goals. So thank you so much. Thank you for this great event. Thank you to it's an honor to have me. Thank you to participate.
Thank you, Roman. So for me, it was a great honor to be here today as a moderator. This, as a person who is interested really in development of Ukraine. It was great to be speaking together with Nadia McConnell, who supports Ukraine for many years. Dmytro Sennychenko, Roman Opimakh, Oleksandr Romanishyn, really, those heroes of modern Ukraine that transform in Ukraine and make it more investors and working together to develop our economy. So now it's exactly 15 minutes, quarter past 9, as was planned. So thank you very much for all participation today, for all your questions, and we look forward to future events, and we wish luck to next speakers at your event today and tomorrow. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
If I might, I guess, have one final word is, you know, conferences are wonderful and they get everybody interested and excited, but it's important as to what happens after the conference. And one of our initiatives is Friends of Ukraine Network, where we get people together to make specific recommendations on policy that we promote within our government, Congress, and the administration. We've really focused mostly on national security and military issues, but we are now turning to focusing on how to support Ukraine's economic development. So I look forward to us continuing this discussion as we develop some specific recommendations. So it goes beyond these wonderful panels and discussions and translates into actions. So again, thank you very much. Thank you for everybody's staying up late. And likewise, our dogs did not interrupt. So, dobranoc, do побачення.
Дякую.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.